Fellas, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I massively appreciate it. So first things first, how is your day going? How are you doing today, particularly coming off the back of the tour?
Yeah, we're just recovering today, pretty much. We got back at like 2:30 in the morning last night. Pretty much got 4 hours sleep, and then I had to get a train back to Nottingham. So I've just been chilling, playing games, man. You know what I mean? What was it? Best?
So jealous. I got back a bit later, about 4:30, had a couple hours sleep, and then got up to go to work. So that's good. But I've now finished. Everything's fine.
Because I'm a professional drummer and full-time partier, I've just been having fun all day long. I've just got back from a party with James Hetfield and did about an hour's practice in the studio. I got my own private studio. I just got off my jet coming back from the private studio, and I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm glad you're all feeling alive, at least at this stage, feeling good and alive, and that you have got through this tour in one piece, which is awesome. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this, considering you all have had such little sleep.
Well, thanks for having us, man. Anytime.
Congratulations, the release of the new album, Bloom Season. It is very, very early days. We're literally talking about a couple of days old out in the world. How have you found the reaction to it so far from your listeners, from the general public?
It's been crazy. Like, just to go on tour and like we've released these songs quite recently, and people were singing the words to songs we released like 2 weeks ago. So like the fact that we've had this response is insane. The turnout's been great. Just being able to transfer that energy into the crowd, we've really appreciated it.
Yeah, we've got some really nice like personal messages and stuff, like people messaging us saying that they really connect with like because it's a bit more of a personal album. So we've got a few people, which is really nice, and it's rare. I think when somebody takes the time out to kind of message you, it's kind of something. I mean, it meant something to them. So when they say they connect with the song topic or whatever, then it's really nice. We've got a few messages like that since it released on Friday, which is really nice.
We're initially a little bit worried because of the rap aspects of putting it that we have in our new music. Like we did that a little bit with Purify in War and things like that, and we were worried when we put those songs out what the reception would be like. Like, oh, are you trying to copy another band in the UK, or are you trying to, even at this level, like sell out or whatever? Because in the metal community it can be quite elitist, so we were quite worried about that. But we were still a little bit concerned, but we were less worried with this release because the music, in terms of how it's developed, and the rap doesn't feel shoehorned, and it felt like we've made something really new and different and special. And the lyrics are also very personal to the band as well. So putting this out there, we were less concerned about what the fans were looking for and more bothered about writing something that felt true to us. And it seems to have been picked up really well by the fans, which is great.
Going back to getting a message from people who the albums resonate quite strongly with, perhaps in ways you didn't expect. How do you respond to those messages? Because I'd imagine it can be quite difficult. I mean, a simple thank you and so on, you almost might feel like you need to say something more.
Yeah, I think because we've had a lot of messages from people struggling with mental health issues, like being the main thing. And like for me personally, because myself and other members of the band have been through these kind of issues, depression, anxiety, substance abuse and things like that, like we can relate to people. So rather than just giving a quick thank you or whatever, we'll have a full-blown conversation with these people as much as we can. And yeah, no, we appreciate them. So they're giving us a platform for what we do, and they're taking that music and it's helping them. It's been like therapy for us. So it's nice to know it's been like that for other people as well.
The experience of releasing this album, the wait, the work, the build up, the long process that involves drip feeding content and so on, the preparation, how does that compare? How did it compare to 2019's Purify?
I think we having done it once, I think when you're doing the first album, you know, Purify, it's all kind of new, and you feel like you're almost muddling through it. Like we had a plan, but like, you know, that first release cycle, I feel like with this, with Bloom Season, we put so much more work into it. But at the same time, we've also been a lot more prepared and had a lot more of an idea of what we kind of wanted to do, the messages we wanted to get out there, you know, how the general, the theming, the kind of content we wanted to have out at the time of release. And I feel like that's good, but it's still been a lot of work, a lot of stress getting that already in time, and everyone's schedules meeting up, and, you know, getting everything about it to the quality that we wanted. I feel like with Purify, when it's the first one, there's a lot of kind of like, we're still really happy with the end product, but, you know, it's an album we're proud of. But I feel like there's a lot of, when it's the first time, like, oh, cool, just the excitement of having an album out is that. But whereas like right now, we're like, it needs to be this, it needs to be that. We want it to do this. We want to say this. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves doing that. But I think it paid off. But it was definitely a different experience.
Yeah, and we had obviously the pandemic to deal with as well, so that was a struggle. But in a way, it kind of pushed us to want it even more. So when they first let us see each other again, we all met up in like a little cabin in Retford, and just had a couple of drinks, and like that's where we wrote some of the main singles for the album, just because the atmosphere and the energy from us was just insane. And we had the passion to do it. So yeah, we wrote, was it Suffer and Nothing Wrong With Me that we wrote in that writing session?
Yeah, I think that was right. And maybe, I think there was a couple others that maybe didn't make it, but yeah, those are the two main ones. And it's unusual because we've always kind of not necessarily written together like that. Like we've kind of gone at it where, you know, Gav will get like the bass of a song, we'll kind of go up and we'll make our own tweaks and we'll play some vocals on it and try some different stuff with it. But with this, like we've never really kind of all been in the same place and started a song from the ground up together. I think that helped a lot, and it was a really fun way to write. You know, it's kind of like the old school way of writing, isn't it? And I think these days a lot of, you know, bands maybe have like one or two main songwriters at least, and then everyone else kind of adds to it in their own way. But this was a very collaborative process.
Well, you brought it up. There's a pandemic that separates the two albums. It's funny, really. Purified 2019, shortly afterwards, the entire world collapses into chaos. A lot happening in 3 years, and would have killed a lot of bands, really. So the fact that you guys survived it is fantastic. And I have to ask, what did it take to get through those past few years? And are you stronger for the challenges that came your way?
Loads of Zoom calls. Yeah, there's a lot of technology. We tried a lot of doing that, and like, you know, John, our producer, Bloom Season, who's an absolute wizard, you know, he's in America, so we also had to deal with different time schedules and that kind of thing, and working together, and yeah, not being able to see each other for a while. I think also one of the things that often, like, you know, you say a lot of bands wouldn't make it. I think a lot of it is that, you know, for us and for a lot of bands, the fun part of the band, or the most fun part, is the gigs and the touring and playing live and playing your instruments together and making music, you know, actually in a room together. And without that, it is a struggle to keep your motivation. So I think we all kind of had to keep laser focused on what we wanted Bloom Season to be. But yeah, we got through it with a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of tech.
Yeah, plus we found out like just after the first lockdown that we was going to be on Download Festival, and then other lockdowns came, so like we had to wait 2 years in anticipation for like one of the best shows of our careers. And I think that was kind of pushing us through as well, just like that vision of being on that stage at Download Festival. And we were motivated to create this record, to play these shows again. Like Tom said, we're so excited to play live, and it was such a good feeling when we came back.
It sounds super messed up, but I actually really enjoyed having to wait 2 years to play Download Festival, because when you do get a big show like that or something really cool, like the build up to it in itself is like a whole thing. So having like a 2 year edge sesh up to playing Download Festival, sick.
there was almost as well a sort of guarantee, because those early return of the festivals and early shows when things were normal to a certain degree, where arguably the hottest period of shows for a while, the apathy that kind of exists in live music had disappeared momentarily.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. Like I actually went to the download pilot. And I remember I'd got there, and the first band that I watched was Holding Absence, and like literally I turned to my right, I look at the person next to me, they're in tears, crying. I look at the person on my left, they're crying. Like the whole room is so emotional because we just missed live music. I didn't really like, as much as the lineup was great, I didn't care who was on. I just wanted to see live music again. And yeah, that was such an experience. So.
No, I can completely relate. It was Bloodstock 2021, the first Bloodstock back after the initial cancellation year before. And yeah, that was quite an emotional experience as well.
Yeah, 100%. Music's so important for people's mental health.
True that. Take me back then to the early days of Bloom Season, specifically a vision. Did you have a vision of what you wanted this record to be?
Honestly, I don't think we set anything in stone. I know that we all wanted to do something different, and we've experimented with, some rap parts and kind of spoken word stuff in Purify. We know that we wanted to take that in a more serious direction, but the actual, in terms of like a big concept, we didn't really have that. But it kind of grew with it when we decided that we kind of got sick of, because there's personal themes in Purify, but they are kind of hidden behind layers of, say, metaphor and things like that, and big concept stuff. So we kind of knew we wanted to speak about a couple more personal things a bit more directly. And when we wrote those initial first songs for it, we were like, wow, this sounds really good. This is cool. And it was, it was definitely cathartic. But
to be fair, we did have a big bank of tunes that we just didn't end up using, that were just generic metalcore songs, which is a bit of a brutal thing to say, but to us they felt like Purify Point 2. I don't think Purify is totally generic. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in that, but it's a lot more generic than Bloom Season for sure. And when we had a look at those demos, we were like, okay, cool, Fade to Black, I think that's different, that's got something special about it. And I was doing I get joked for this all the time, businessman thing, and trying to network up with as many managers and labels and agents and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, look, we've got this cool tune, and at the time, it hadn't been given to our producer. So a lot of the sort of like cool in the background stuff that's going on with that track that makes it so full, it wasn't there. But our current manager, but at the time a guy that was kind of just checking us out, we sent Fade to Black over to him. He was like, this is really cool. I think I know a producer that would be really, really good with this. I will send it over to him and he'll do a little demo, mess about with it and send it over and let me know what you think. And he sent over to us kind of what Fade to Black is now. And we were all really blown away by it. We were like, we've worked with a few producers. We'd never had this kind of an outcome before. The amount of work that he'd done on it was just like crazy, and it sounded really good. It made us sound fresh. But it also kept our sound, and we were like, I think we can work really well with this guy. So at that point, to be honest, I think that's the final thing that nailed it with us starting a relationship with our manager. Was we were just all really amped on what had come out of the back of us creating Fade to Black, giving it to that producer, and then working on it together. And from there, we went, well, this is really cool. This is really different. We want the rest of the album to sort of follow from this. So throughout the album, there's songs that are, less heavy to Fade to Black and more on the sort of grime side. And then we'll have other songs that are much heavier, that are more like Purify, but still have that element of Bloom Season that comes back to that more metalcore sound that we had with Purify. So that's kind of how we've ended up with the sound that we've got now. But we still have a massive bank of like metalcore songs that are more on the side of Purify that we just completely scrapped off because we were like, this just won't work with the new vibe. So we kind of, during lockdown, essentially ended up writing more like an album and a half, and sacked off a load of songs, which Gav was not too happy about being the primary songwriter.
So would you say the Fade to Black point specifically was when things really began to take shape.
Yeah, definitely. Which is quite poignant with it being the opening song on our album.
What about some of the more challenging aspects of working on Bloom Season, considering the creativity, the imagination, and the experimentation that's going on? There had to have been moments where you're pulling your hair out, so to speak, or was it very smooth?
Oh, definitely. I think Geordie can talk about how many times we rewrote a lot of the verses. Because I think it's hard to, when, you know, we wanted like his kind of like spoken word stuff to gel really well, and it's kind of hard. Like the amount of rewriting we did from all the tracks was insane.
Yeah, the thing is with me, like I write a lot of lyrics, and I sometimes too much, and the guys just kind of help me cut loads of it.
If Geordie had his way, he'd just be talking and screaming non-stop the whole thing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And what about some more the more notable moments then, where you found out while working on Bloom Season, where you found out something new about Borders and what you as musicians were capable of?
I think one of the coolest moments in terms of what we're capable of, for me anyway, was when we were writing together in the cabin thing we had. And everyone else was out. I can't remember why, but me and Geordie were there, and I brought all my kind of studio equipment as well. I had like my Mac and stuff, and I'd made this like beat, and I was like, Geordie, let's just write some bars to this beat. You know, like before, we always, you know, write to a riff or write a riff and have some vocals and fit a riff to it, some guitars to it. We're like, I've just got this beat. Let's just see what it does. Because I feel like Geordie has always, you know, you always write better or you find it easier to write some rap parts when it's more of a beat than like a heavy metal rock thing going on. So we did that, and like kind of Nothing Wrong With Me just kind of happened at that moment there. He kind of spat the first verse, and we were like, that's really cool. And I just left a gap, and because we wrote that first verse, like the intro to Nothing Wrong With Me, had all the beat and everything. We're like, this sounds really cool. It's very different anyway, because we only had the start of Fade to Black at this point. And then I just left a gap and was like, yeah, we'll just need to put a riff here. We'll just put something cool. Don't know what it's going to be, but they'll be here. And then we started the other verse. And then the next day or whenever Gav came back, he just slapped that riff in the first time. Like, that's awesome. And I feel like we'd never really written it that way before. And just being like, wow, we could actually write to just me and Geordie doing a beat and a crappy microphone that we had lying around and stuff. I think that really...
bending the truth there. He did write a riff himself in that gap, and we're going to release it at some point in the near future.
Oh, the placeholder. Yeah, that doesn't need to come out.
What about you, fellas? Have you got any notable moments where you learned something new about yourself or your bandmates?
I mean, mine's quite a serious one, but we speak about how the album was kind of therapy for us in a way, and like for me it really was. So writing the album, at the start of it, I was struggling with like alcohol abuse and things like that, and towards the end of the album I got sober. So like if you listen to Nothing Wrong With Me, that's about my struggles, and then if you listen to Bloom Season, that's about kind of like overcoming those struggles. So like from start to finish, it feels to me like it was my journey of mental health and substance abuse, and like how I came out of it. So I remember like I literally got the draft back for the video of Nothing Wrong With Me when I was in hospital after drinking too much. So yeah, I was in hospital, and I got the first draft back of the Nothing Wrong With Me video, and I was looking at it. It was like looking at myself in the mirror, thinking, "What am I doing to myself?" So I got sober, and it's been in like a couple of weeks. It'll have been a year that I've been sober. So it's like, yeah, I learned something new about myself, but maybe in a different way. Like not like musically, because yeah, like learning how to rap better was great, but like I learned like how to be a better person and yeah, be sober.
Incredible.
You mentioned at the start of the call about a lot of bands that really struggled, through COVID and have broken up and all this kind of stuff. Like, honestly, and it's a sort of a bittersweet one, I guess. Like, I'm super proud of us for being able to do it, but like just getting this album over the line, like it was really hard. Like, we've had some really, really good times, like what these guys were talking about with going and after the first lockdown, going away and being able to like hang out together after however long that was and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of borders is something that we're all really passionate about. There's a lot of, it's entirely creative. There can be a massive clash of opinions, and being able to articulate that over like Skype or like Messenger or whatever is really hard to do, and everything moves really slowly, and everyone's just like, I just want to be able to be a person with my mates and enjoy what we're doing. And we've had a lot of challenges to be, being able to just get this album over the line, and the fact that we've managed to do it is really great.
It absolutely is, and you deserve all the praise in the world for managing to do that, but also for resonating so strongly with so many people already. The level of creativity and experimentation you showcase on this album, it's stunning. And it seems like you're getting a bit more confident in regards to defining who borders are, so to speak. However, obviously, genre bending is what you do. Do you want to define who you are, or are you worried that that might limit your creativity?
I think the best outcome that we've had is just doing what we thought sounded good with Bloom Season. So it's a bit of a difficult question. I think like we did play up to that more with Purify, but that was just sort of finding our feet with what we thought did and didn't work. If you go really far back to like our previous EPs, like it's just Riff City, quite prog. We're not really trying to get catchy choruses in there or whatever. And the band it's crazy how much we've changed from when we first started. And I think at the time we were trying to hop on trends like, oh, we want to sound like a gent band, or we want to be the next like cool metalcore band that's got a little bit of rap in it or whatever. But this time we were just like, whatever, we'll just, put music together that we like, and then we'll work on it with our producer because we know that he's awesome, and just see where it goes, rather than being more concerned for what people would think. We just wrote music that we liked, and having that mindset I think is super important for any band regardless of what level they're at. But it takes you a long time to realize that that's what you should be doing, and that's how we'll be working going forward. So I don't really know what's going to happen in the future creatively, but we're just going to be doing stuff that we like.
They can't say any better than that. That's exactly how it should be, as you said. And it does take a while to learn and work that out, but it's great to hear you say that. Going back to Bloom Season specifically, collaborations, obviously, Kane Hill and Dropout Kings guest upon this album. Give us a bit of a rundown how those collabs came about.
Well, our producer works with Kane Hill, and we wrote a very heavy track, and he showed it to him. And I feel like because we've got similar like lyrics, he talks a lot about kind of being anti-religion and God and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, we kind of related to that and collaborated. He's got an incredible voice. Yeah, that was something.
As for Dropout Kings, obviously they're an American band as well. Our manager's based in America, and he was like, these guys have a similar sort of like work ethic to you guys in the sense of how they write, and just being shamelessly unapologetic to, we think this is cool and we're going to put it out and people are going to like it, and it seems to work. And they don't sound like, I think we're a lot heavier than they are for the most part. But we checked them out and listened to their music, and we're like, yeah, these guys are really cool. I think they fit really well on our track. It was those guys and Hacktivist, and we are pally with Hacktivist, but we felt like that would be like an obvious go-to. We always get compared to them because they're another UK metal rap band as well. So we were like, it's almost just nah. we love those guys and their music's great, but we felt like it'd be almost too predictable. So we wanted to go for something that was less predictable. And Dropout Kings, yeah, their music's great. We, did a tour with them, really great guys. And I honestly don't think we could have found anybody better to feature on that track.
There's plenty of time for the Hacktivist thing anyway. Years and years of growth, and eventually, you know, who knows, something will come out of there. But yeah, I think it'd be a great team up.
Yeah, man.
Going back to the tour, guys, was there the recent tour you've just done around the UK? Was there a particular show that stood out for you, and if so, why?
For me, it was the lead show actually. So it was so unexpected, but it was like a really small, kind of gritty venue with like it's Temple. Was it Boom?
Boom 2.
Yeah.
Boom 2. That's it. Yeah, Boom 2. And there's like graffiti on the walls and stuff. And it was just like an incredible atmosphere. This small room and just everybody going wild, crowd surfing. Like although like that show only had like 50, 60 people, it was insane. We just didn't expect it. So there was a lot of energy at that show.
I think for me, I really liked on Saturday we headlined Techhabilitation in Derby. That was really good. I think because we've played Techfest and Techhabilitation quite a few times now, I think you go there and you see some familiar faces, and it's always nice. And I feel like each time we go back there, we get an even better reception, and that was so much fun to just kind of top off that night. Yeah, I think that was a really special one.
For me, Techhabilitation or our hometown show, for different reasons. Like Techhabilitation, the same as what Tom said. They've been so supportive to us since we started Techfest, have been super supportive to us almost from the get-go. I think we've been playing that festival sort of on and off now for a good 6 or 7 years, and Simon, who runs it, he's really created a really strong community within what started to be the, I guess, techie gent scene, and now it seems to just be metal bands around the UK that are good. And having built up that kind of like almost cult-like following, if he puts on a show, you always know it's going to be good. As for the hometown show, I mean, it's our hometown show, you know, that speaks for itself. We got to see had a lot of our friends and family come. Tom's mum drove all the way down from Norwich, which is where he lives. And it was really good, just because we haven't done a hometown show. Like, again, I know we keep talking about COVID, but COVID stopped us from playing shows in general, including, our hometown show, which really, obviously it's a lot more, I guess, emotional, because you've got all of your friends and family, and then the place where it all started. So, yeah.
Guys, from my perspective, it is generally heartwarming to hear that the tour not only went so well and that you had such a great experience, but obviously that Bloom season is out now and it is resonating with so many people, which brings me to the final question for each of you. What is it for you, in your opinion, personal, that Borders is resonating with so many people?
For me, I think I've probably already answered this question, but like I said, it was like therapy for me, and the fact that it can do that for other people as well is quite special.
I think because we're, especially in our genre, I think there's a lot of bands that touch on this kind of thing, but I feel like a lot of it is because a lot of our music revolves around heavy screamed vocals. I would say lyrics aren't necessarily always the focal point. It's usually the rhythms, the guitars, the instrumentation. So I think when we are kind of unapologetically saying these things and our message and things that are quite personal, but in a way that can be heard by everyone, and we're not hiding it, it's just coming straight out, pretty blunt. I feel like that some people resonate with that kind of thing a lot, where it's just kind of almost saying it like it is, and you can hear it. And if you vibe with that, then I feel that's something you're going to latch onto straight away.
Yeah, ironically, with previous releases, when we were talking about lyrics, we would go out of our way to try and write lyrics that would be relatable to people, because we thought that that's what people would want. So it was almost like forced related lyrics, but because it's forced and it's not natural, I guess the end is always going to be, which, as I said earlier, we've kind of learnt now, it just doesn't work. Alongside the fact that Geordie was just full on screaming these relatable lyrics. So the lyrical side of it didn't feel that strong, whereas like with this, it is all genuinely, you know, from the heart, and you can hear what we're saying, and we haven't sat down and gone, right, how can we make these lyrics relatable? We just sang, well, rapped. Geordie has rapped about, you know, how we felt through various times, whether it be pre-pandemic, leading up to the pandemic happening, and afterwards. But the thing is, a lot of the songs, they're not purely just focused on the pandemic. There's lots of other things that have gone around it. You know, Geordie's like got a song that's about like, it'll scale from domestic abuse to, you know, drug addiction to mental health problems and things like that, that are all issues that a band member at some point within the past 3 years and a bit have had to deal with. And singing about those personal experiences rather than trying to brainstorm something that people will like and then just screaming about it, has definitely had a really positive impact. So yeah, that's mine for sure.
I think it's 100% true to say that if you didn't believe it or wasn't relatable to you, it would come through in the music, hence why Bloom Season has such an effect. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate you having us, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?